Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Going to Bat with Team Irie. This is episode number 46. We've done a few episodes this year, and we've done a few the last couple years. So, if you want to watch any of the other interviews that we've done, you can go back through the foundation page here and check them out. We mainly raise money for spinal cord injury research, and we do a lot of high school scholarships here in the state of Kentucky. So, it's our honor tonight to have Doug Bochtler. Am I pronouncing it right, Doug?
Yeah, you got it. Nailed it.
Okay, I've been practicing. So, how's everything going with spring training? You're with the Toledo Mud Hens now. You're the pitching coach, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So I'm down here at Major League Spring Training with the Tigers, and I'll be here until the end of March, and then I'll kick it on up to Toledo and handle the AAA affiliate.
That's great. That's awesome. We'll start out with some of these questions right here. And starting out, we know, I've read up a little bit on you. I've done my due diligence, but growing up in Florida, back when before the Miami Marlins and all that kind of stuff, did you have a favorite Major League Baseball team?
I did actually. So the Atlanta Braves trained in my hometown of West Palm Beach. So I was a big Braves fan. Unfortunately for me, when the season started, there were only three teams that had television broadcast, and that was TBS, WWOR, which had the Mets, and then WGN, which had the Cubs. So I ended up growing up a pretty big Braves fan. I was watching Dale Murphy when he was a catcher, so it was good times. I got to go through all the dark years of the Braves system, and then ended up pitching against them when they were in their heyday. So, but yeah, it was
Wow.
fun. It was fun growing up. It was fun growing up with being a Braves fan.
Just thinking about you pitching against them guys too, Maddox and Smoltz and Avery and all them. I mean, that had to be pretty cool being a Braves fan and then also growing up and pitching against those guys.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I actually got my first win against Steve Avery. So
Oh,
that was my first
wow.
major league win. Was in Atlanta. My family was able to be there. My fiance at the time was able to be there. It was a special moment for sure.
Wow. That's pretty cool. And then, being from Florida, of course, you were drafted by Montreal. So, what was it like, thinking about, I'm playing in Florida, I'm playing, I'm being drafted by Montreal, which is a whole nother country and, of course, a different climate. What was going through your head when that happened?
Well, I knew when I got drafted, I was a long way away from being in the big leagues. So I wasn't necessarily that concerned about the climate because they had a dome. So they were playing in the Big O at the time. So yeah, I really didn't think twice about the climate. My second year of professional baseball, I ended up going to Rockford, Illinois, and Rockford, Illinois in April is quite chilly. It's just things to deal with along the way, and you get used to it.
Oh, yeah, you would have to get used to it. But then, like you said, it's in a dome, so it couldn't have been that bad up there, I guess.
Yeah, it
But
wasn't that bad. Yeah.
yeah, so, you know, I read a little bit about you playing in high school. You played actually with two guys that went on to play in the MLB. What was that like?
Yeah, so my high school had a long tradition of putting out some serious talent. When I was a when I was a junior in high school, we had 25 guys on our team, and 23 either went to play in college or were drafted. So we had a very good high school program. We took we were fourth in the state that year. We had a really good high school program. So
Yeah, that would be very interesting playing on a high school like that with that many
yeah,
upcoming major league players. I mean, you guys had to be pretty awesome anyway.
yeah, we have a pretty good squad, pretty good memories there. So yeah, I was excited.
Oh yeah, and then what was it like when you got the call from the majors? I mean, of course, people like us, we've never had that call before. So, what was going through your mind, and you know, how did you feel when you got that call?
Well, it was kind of a fulfillment of a long journey, actually. When I was a junior in high school, one of my teammates very, very good. There we go. We're back. I was
locking up a little bit.
Yeah, I was a junior. He was a senior. When I was a senior, he had gone away. He was drafted by the Montreal Expos. He went away and played junior college. And on December 10th of 1987, he was killed by a drunk driver.
Wow.
And obviously, being a state team, we were very close. We were roommates on our American Legion trips. And he passed away. Well, his father came to me and told me, said, I want you to take this glove to the major leagues with you. And he handed me my friend's glove. And I was a senior in high school. I was throwing 82 miles an hour. Like, that was a far-fetched even thought. Well,
Wow.
I took that glove with me to my 1 year at Indian River Community College in Fort Pierce. I carried it with me to Bradenton, Florida. I carried it with me to Rockford, Illinois. I carried it with me to West Palm Beach when I played in high A. I carried it with me to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I carried it with me to Colorado Springs. I carried that glove with me to Las Vegas. And when I got the call that I was going to the major leagues, I had the glove with me. My dad had just driven my truck out to Las Vegas from West Palm. And I warmed up in the this is crazy. So I was pitching behind Fernando Valenzuela. I warmed up in the first inning. I warmed up in the third inning. And I finally went in the fifth inning. And I had the honor of wearing my friend's glove in the major leagues for my debut.
Wow. And that was in, was that
1995. 95.
Oh, 95, yeah. So
yeah, it was a strike year. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was so much going on, and but to have the opportunity to fulfill that dream for his parents was something that I was honored to do.
Yeah, that would be. And I'm sure his parents were very grateful for that too, and just
Yeah,
having him be a part of that.
no doubt. It was a great honor.
Oh, yeah. Now, you performed well in your debut. You talked about your debut there against the Giants. I
Yep.
mean, you got out 4 of the guys you faced and everything else. That had to feel amazing, especially with everything else that was going on.
Yeah, it was. It was kind of strange, when I when I showed up, and kind of like my customary thing to do was I would take my warm up pitches, I would grab my rosin bag, and I would check my outfielders. And I turned around and I was like, "Oh my God, that's Tony Gwynn in right.
Oh,
That's Steve Finley in center." I was like, it's Bip Robertson left." I was like, "Holy cow, this is for real!" And you look up and you see the third deck. So all the minor league stadiums only have 2 decks. And you see that third deck of a major league stadium, and it was like, whoa. But I was able to get through it, and I was happy I was, and that was a good time.
Yeah, I mean, going out for your first game like that, I mean, personally, you would think it, myself, I would be like scared to death or so nervous I probably wouldn't get the ball over the plate, but sound like you handled it pretty well.
Well, I walked my first one, struck my second one out, so I was a little bit nervous, and then once I walked that guy, I was like, "Hey, man, you better get to it." So I was able to strike my next one out, and then had a nice clean next inning. So
Yep. And you pitched a long time as the setup man for Trevor Hoffman.
yeah.
What was that like, being the setup man for Trevor Hoffman? I mean, I know I read something that you even helped him with his changeup, but what was the whole experience about being a setup man for Trevor Hoffman?
Well, the way that I describe it is, being a setup man is like walking a tightrope with a safety net. Trevor Hoffman had no safety net, but he still walked the tightrope. So it was the best. It was comforting to know he was behind me. He was, I mean, I never played alongside Mariano. I know he got more saves and had a better postseason, but in my opinion, no one shaped the bullpen chemistry and culture like Trevor did. No one prepared like Trevor did. No one outperformed Trevor, in my opinion. He was a special talent to play alongside of, and it was nice to have him behind me in case I stunk that night.
Yeah. And do you still keep up with Trevor and stuff and talk to him?
Absolutely, yeah.
Good.
In my current position, had the opportunity to help a young man that is currently in the major leagues with the Tigers, and we realized that like having the mentality of Trevor would be really important for this guy to have because he has an opportunity to pitch and leverage with the Tigers this year. So I talked to Trevor this winter, asked him if he'd be okay to talk to this pitcher, and he opened up his life to this pitcher and has poured into him just like I knew that he would because he's a great human.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then when you left San Diego, you went to Detroit in 1998. You led Detroit with innings pitched by a relief pitcher. I mean, it's like you went from San Diego to Detroit. You led them as a relief pitcher. Were those innings that you led? Was it like long reliever was setup man, relief pitcher, the closer? What were most of your innings?
Yeah, so my innings in Detroit were weird because, I came over as a one-inning guy. I wasn't pitching leverage. They had already had their leverage innings accounted for. But I was still pitching, inning in the third, 1+. I was never really a 2+ inning guy. And I remember going to the All-Star break. I finished the game. Came out of the All-Star break. We were facing the 98 Yankees, which were perhaps the greatest team ever assembled. And I ended up getting called in. I came in the game. I get an out. Go out there again, get another out. Get out there again. I go to start another inning. And at this point, Mike Stanley was the third baseman for the 98 Yankees. And he had picked up on a tell that I had where I was tipping my pitches. Not good.
No.
I gave up back-to-back home runs. Ended up giving up 6 runs that inning. My ERA went from a 1.8 to a 4.15. And when you're a 2-pitch pitcher and you give away one of your pitches, the major leagues have a way of punishing you for that. So I ended the season with a solid 6, and ended up getting released and was a free agent going into the next year.
So that was against the Yankees. Was that in Yankee Stadium where?
No, we're in Tiger Stadium. No, they were in Tiger Stadium, so they were legit home runs.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I didn't know if after giving up that many runs, I know Blackjack McDowell, after he gave up that many runs, he kind of told the fans they were number one, but that's a totally different story.
Yeah, no, I would not do that.
No, that's a total different story. But in September that year, you was also a part of a record against the White Sox. Can you tell us a little bit about that record?
I don't know why I agreed to come on your show if you're going to bring memory up. There's a lot of pitchers used, and I was the last one. So that did not fare well for me.
That was
you can give the details if you want, but I gave up back-to-back home runs to lose the game.
Oh my goodness. Wasn't it like 18 pitchers or something that game?
18 pitchers, yeah, and I was the last one.
Wow. That's just crazy thinking about that many pitchers pitching in one game.
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Long game.
Yeah. I think, thinking about some of the new rules, which we haven't talked about this, but I think now they're talking about you're only allowed to have so many pitchers even on your roster. So that'd be probably kind of hard to do nowadays.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, there are roster limits, and There's limits on like when you can throw a position player. But I will say this, like last year, I had all of the new rule changes in place that they were testing for the major leagues, and the common fan is going to absolutely love the new rules and the pace, because you don't have the hitters stepping out and adjusting their batting gloves, taking their time, making sure that they look right and checking their shirt and their socks and their shoes, and it is going to push the pace of play. And I can remember last year under these new rules, we were in Toledo playing 9-inning baseball games in 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Wow. I was going to ask you about those new rules, but I didn't know, in your situation where you're coaching and stuff, if you could talk much about them. But, I know that they're talking about stepping out. If you step out more than once, it's an automatic strike. And if the pitcher takes more than 15 seconds, automatic ball. And there's no fake throws to third. And it just seems like a lot.
There is a lot, but it took about 4 to 6 weeks to get used to all the rules. And then once we got all the rules dialed in, it was just an enjoyable paced game, a lot of action, a lot more stolen base attempts. So there was a lot of things that were positive for the game. And there's going to be a lot of ejections in spring training, maybe not spring training, but definitely in April when, a guy strikes out and didn't have an opportunity to swing the bat because he refused to get on the batter's box on time. So it's going to be contentious at the beginning, but by the end of it all, it's going to be a better game.
The only thing that really bothers me, I guess, is the ghost runner. I just cannot get into the ghost runner. It just, on second base after, 12th inning or later, it just reminds me of wiffle ball, or what we used to play here was lemon. We didn't play wiffle ball. We played with the plastic lemon, which was harder to get, but that's a whole different story. But it just reminds me of imaginary runners and all that kind of stuff, like you would be in wiffle ball.
Yeah, well, there is an actual runner out there, so like it's not necessarily a ghost runner, but there's actual base runner out there. And one of the things about that is the studies have shown that baseball games are over like maximum by the 13th inning. So what it's really avoiding is burning your bullpen for the next day, and then forcing reliever that good. And I'm back. All right. If we get a long reliever, it's going to be team to be without a pitcher, and so these games allow you to the game with the international rules with a runner at second base, extra innings. What it does is it actually is going to end the game quicker, and it's going to require the ability to use even in those late inning situations where you don't have to just you're losing the game with your the 13th man on your staff.
Yep, exactly. And to get to another question here, because I know I don't want to eat up too much of your time, but you was considered a prankster. I mean, I've seen some videos of you stealing this lady's drink. I mean, it's like you done it to Mission Impossible. It's like for 3 years in a row, I saw you scaling the wall and taking her drink, and she never did figure out who it was, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
Can you tell some of the stories that some of the pranks and stuff that you played? I mean, I can tell you that. Did Scott Harrison play when you played out there? That's probably a little later, wasn't it?
He was after. I was there. Yeah.
Yeah. So Scott Harrison told me when he was traded to San Diego, that the first night he got there, they all went down to continental breakfast at the hotel, and he said all the donuts had a bite out of them. And he said he took the last one because he didn't have a bite out of it. And he said he sat down beside Trevor Hoffman, and he said everybody was laughing, and he couldn't figure out what they were laughing about. And he asked Trevor, he said, "Why was all the donut, had a bite out of him. Why did everyone have a bite out of him? And Trevor didn't say a whole lot, and he started eating his, and then Trevor started laughing again. He said, "What are you laughing at?" He said, "Because I licked that one."
Yeah, that'd be true in the spirit of Hoffy, for sure.
Oh yeah. So, what's some of the pranks that you've pulled that we can talk about live
Ooh.
with the regular audience?
Well, I will say this: the viral video that comes out every 4 months, the thing goes viral again, was one of my favorites. But as it comes to like other things that I did and tricks that I did, I was always joking around because I was a practitioner of sleight of hand and magic, and always had a new trick for everybody in the clubhouse. I baseball twice. Once was for magic, and the other one was for cutting hair. So never for pitching, but always for something other than like the actual sport that I was being paid to play. So I always had a trick up my sleeve, always doing something that was designed to keep the clubhouse light and, have a little bit of fun and levity.
And we touched on a little bit earlier too, changing gears here, but Tony Gwynn, I mean, I was just crazy over Tony Gwynn, watching him play ball, and it's unbelievable what kind of hitter Tony Gwynn was. And, you look at some of the feats that he done, and like the pitchers that pitched against him, and he hardly ever struck out, and all the hits and everything. What was it like playing on the same team with somebody like that and watching him every day? I mean, that would have to be thrilling.
That was special. You knew you were there with greatness when you watch somebody perform his craft like he did. It was as special as they come, man. I can remember an at bat. He's facing Donovan Osborne from the Cardinals. This lefty had a pretty good slider, and he threw him a first pitch slider, and Tony waved at it, like didn't see the spin, didn't recognize it, out of the hand at all. And somehow he, works the count, and he gets the 2 strikes, and he throws him a fastball inside, and he fouls it off, spoiled it, and tapped his bat on the ground. He acts like his bat is broken, goes back to the dugout, picks up another bat. He goes up there, Donovan Osborne throws him a slider, and he hits it right back at him. I mean, straight Charlie Brown. Hat comes off, glove goes flying, shoes come off. I mean, not really, but like it was right back at him.
Oh my God!
And he gets out there to first base, and next batter's Ken Caminiti. Hits him a ground ball, and they get a forced play at second, but they don't turn 2. So I'm sitting in the dugout. Tony Gwynn comes in, and he sits next to me. It must have been the only seat, because I was a rookie. It must have been the only seat on the dugout. I mean, because otherwise he wouldn't have sat next to me. And I just said, "Hey, Tony, you didn't break your bat, did you?" And he went, "No." And I go, "So what'd you do? Get a heavier bat because you knew he was going to throw you a slider?" And he went, "No, I got a lighter bat because I knew he was going to throw me a slider." I was like, "Well, why would you do that?" He goes, "Because I knew I could wait back longer and still be quick to the ball." And I was like, "Whoa, this guy is at a different level." And I said, "How much lighter was it?" Half an ounce. Like, so when you think about the great ones, and you think about people, and you think about stories, like that's Tony Gwynn.
It is. And I've talked to some of the, other ball players that kind of knew Tony, and they told me that he made an art out of studying the game of baseball, studying how to hit the ball, studying batting. I mean, he was just like this guru, and I've never heard one bad thing about Tony Gwynn.
No, he's incredible. Great human.
Well, and that'd be something I'd remember for the rest of my life, playing with somebody like Tony Gwynn on the same team. I mean, that would be a dream come true. So was there ever a pitcher, a hitter, as a pitcher that you just hated to face?
Yeah, for sure. I'll give you 2 stories on this. Okay.
Okay.
So the first guy that owned me was Eric Davis. I had nothing. I mean, he just owned me. I mean, it was a homer, it was a double, it was a triple. He owned me. And finally, that was when he was with the Reds. And finally, he went to the Orioles at the end. And I went to the Tigers, and we were in Baltimore, and Hirschbeck was behind the plate, who had an extremely wide zone as an umpire. And I got to, it was like probably 2 home runs foul for all I know. I mean, that's my memory of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I threw him a pitch that was about a foot off the plate outside. And Hirschbeck rings him up. And I remember, like, I wanted to do a cartwheel off the field because that guy owned me.
Yeah.
The other guy would be Paul Molitor. Now, if you're Molitor's 0 for 2 off of me, and I have no idea how. It was the most terrifying at-bat of anybody I've ever faced. I knew that I had nothing to get Paul Molitor out. There's just a sense that you have when a batter's in the box, and I knew I had nothing to get Paul Molitor out. My outs off of him were like this miraculous play by Joe Randa at third base, and a fly ball to the warning track. I mean, it was a terrifying event, more so than facing, you name it, Ken Griffey Jr., Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, like you name the player during that era. And Paul Molitor was without a doubt the that I faced.
And Paul Molitor is one you don't hear a whole lot about. I mean, when I do these interviews, you don't hear a whole lot about Paul Molitor, but I knew how good of a player he was. Of course, I remember back in those days, but it's good to hear something about Paul Molitor.
Oh, from the now after.
Yeah, you're cutting out. You're cutting out just a little bit. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. I read up a little bit about you and what you call teetotalism, which I didn't know anything about that. I read up on it. It said you practiced teetotalism while you were a player in the majors. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because I didn't know.
Sure. So, when I first signed a professional contract and I walked into my first spring training, and I walked in there and I saw everybody in the room was bigger than me. So I knew that they were going to be more physical than me. And I needed to somehow separate myself if I was ever going to play in the major leagues. So I never wanted to have any regrets. I never wanted to have anything be a reason that I never wanted to have anything to be a reason that I didn't make the major league. Sorry, I had a phone call coming in.
You're fine. You're fine.
So I decided, well, I'm not going to let drinking be a reason that I didn't make it to the major leagues. So I decided, all right, we just won't do that. I'm sorry about that, man. My son's
That's probably it.
My son.
I was going to say it's probably Paul Molitor.
Yeah. Oh, don't say that. I got a nightmare. So yeah, I just wasn't going to allow that to be a reason that I didn't make the major leagues or I didn't have a decent career, be the best that I could be. So I decided I was going to eliminate that as one of those variables that could potentially lead to a path that wasn't going to allow me to compete at my best. So that was the kind of the driving force behind it. My faith had part of that to do with that as well. But not nearly as much as not wanting to have the best opportunity that I had to have the best career that I could possibly have.
When I was reading up on teetotalism about staying away from alcohol and everything, what first popped in my head was that was the reason you was taking that woman's drink, because you didn't want her to have any either.
It's funny, funny. She would literally show up at a ballpark and have one beer. Like she was a season ticket holder. She never had more than one. She had that one and just nursed it all game long. But she'd turn around, she knows me, and she'd just like, oh, come on. And I'd run over there and grab it and give it back to her or whatever. But yeah, that actually didn't have anything to do with why I was stealing it, but it was good, clean fun.
Yeah, that was a pretty entertaining video to watch that. But I know now you're still, you were the pitching coach years ago for San Diego, which that had to be thrilling, but you're still into, like you talked about earlier, you're in the AAA, the Toledo Mud Hens. You're still the pitching coach, and how's everything going with that? I mean, how do you like, still being a pitching coach and doing everything you do there?
I actually, this is probably my favorite level that I've ever coached at. We have a really good pitching group over here, and a lot of people don't necessarily know like what all is entailed when it comes to, being what we would call a pitching group. But you have a major league pitching coach, you have an assistant major league pitching coach, you have a bullpen coach, then you have the AAA pitching coach, you have a pitching director, you have a pitching coordinator. So there's really 5 guys that are we have 5 guys in major league camp right now, and they're all pitching people. So when it comes to being with an affiliated team, one of the major league teams, you have a group of people that are involved in pitching, and the group here is incredible. There's really no ego involved. So the major league pitching coach will call me over and say, I want you to go work with this guy on this. And he doesn't even care the means by which I get the job accomplished. He just wants it done. So that's rare. There's a lot of organizations where somebody's trying to get this or trying to get that, trying to be this person, trying to be that person. And a lot of those places break down, but with what we've created here in Detroit, starting last year, maybe culminating with the completion of that this year, we have plenty of knowledgeable pitching guys that are like-minded, and everybody's happy with their position in the game. So it's a very, very good place to be. I'm extremely happy with the AAA level. I've coached in the major leagues. I've coached in rookie ball. I've coached in A ball, and AAA is pretty much a sweet spot for where both my talents lie and where I get satisfaction out of doing my job.
Really sounds like a team effort. I mean, from the major leagues down to the AAA. I mean, pretty well the single A, double A, AAA is a feeder system. So it sounds like you're working well with major league at that level.
Yeah, it's great. We're in constant communication. At any given moment, they could call me and ask for my best player, and that's who they're going to get. Because ultimately, what matters are major league wins. AAA wins don't matter. It's nice when you win in AAA, but they don't matter. What matters are major league wins, and that's what we're here for. We're all here for the Detroit Tigers and to get wins.
So do you enjoy coaching more than you did playing?
That's a great question, Dave. Man, holy cow. That wasn't on your list of things you're going to talk about. Wow, you're hitting me with the real stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. I would have to say yes. I enjoy coaching more than I enjoy pitching. And
wow.
And this is really strange because I loved competing, and there's nothing like controlling like every aspect of the outcome of the game. I loved it.
Mhm.
I did it at a high level. I did it for a long time. I loved it. But it hurt.
Hmm.
Like physically, it hurt.
Yeah.
The grind that you had to go through, like it was painful. And then guess what? While you're hurting, you got to do it again. Coaching is a little different. You get to help somebody else. And part of who I am as a human being is how can I enrich the lives of the people that are around me? And then you still get to feel like you're competing against the other coaches from the other teams. So you get the competition aspect, but the thing that you get is the ability to help someone else. Someone next to you, someone that's around you, like someone you consider family. You get to help that person succeed. And like to me, I'd rather have one of these kids succeed in life. And
That's a good perspective. I really like how you put that. And somebody asked here, Mike Doyle. He wanted to
yes,
know. Can you hear me?
yeah, I got you.
Okay. He said pitching isn't what it used to be when starters could go 9 innings, 9+ innings. Uh, I know it's changed a lot, but he just mentioned that on here. It's just changed a
Yeah.
lot since pitchers used to go 9 innings.
Yeah, it did. Basically what we have now is we have more injuries and we have people redlining from pitch 1 to pitch 90. So that's all basically you're getting nowadays. So, people wonder, like, could we go back? Yeah, we could go back. And it would basically be pitchers more concerned about stuff, like less concerned about stuff, more concerned about getting outs. We could go back to that. Like it could easily happen. But when you have people saying all you care about is swing and miss and stuff like velo, guys are going to go out there and red line as long as they can red line. They're going to get hurt and they're going to blow out and they're not going to be good for many years. And the organization has essentially said, you know what, we're just going to good. We'll find somebody else that's going to do it. So it's not as good like long term on the player, but they're just out there redlining, man. There's every pitch. So,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, oh yeah, and
I,
can you hear me now? You're cutting out a little bit.
yeah, I got you. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's fine. You're just cutting out a little bit. Yeah.
I'm on hotel internet, Dave.
Well, just watch out for the bed bugs.
Yeah, no, not at the courtyard.
No, it shouldn't be. But yeah, I was going to mention I was looking through your rosters the other day and seeing who you play with and stuff. But I'm really good friends with Willie Blair, and I
Yeah,
saw where you two played a couple years out in San Diego.
we did. Played in San Diego, played in Detroit. Willie just actually got a job with the Reds, so he's
Cool.
gonna be pitching coach somewhere with the Cincinnati Reds, and consider Willie a very good friend, and watch one of the most miraculous things I've ever seen. Him getting went out and pitched
Yeah.
the 13th inning of the game, threw the IVs all game, and then went out and
Wow.
pitched the 14th inning, and then ended up losing the game. But I've never had more respect for anybody than watching him take the baseball in a position like that.
That's pretty cool because I was talking to Willie. He texted me the other day and he told me he got that position with the Reds, which I didn't know if anybody knew. So I mean,
Yeah,
apparently they do.
yeah.
Yeah, he's excited about it because, of course, the Reds are my team.
Okay.
I'm close to
Yeah,
the
you're a
Reds.
Kentucky guy. Yeah.
Yep, Northern Kentucky, so I'm not far from the Reds. But I was actually been in Toledo one time. That's when I was 13 years old. I went and stayed up in Wapakoneta, Ohio, with my neighbor. he was a truck driver and went through Toledo. I stayed up there for a week. Had an earthquake up there, a little earthquake, and I thought it was time for me to come home. Yeah.
There you go. Don't blame me for that.
So we're going to do some rapid fire questions here real quick and let you go so you can get to bed. But
Yeah.
I like asking these questions.
This is the latest I've stayed up since spring training started.
Oh, that's pretty cool. We'll have to get you to bed. Maybe tomorrow, Sunday, you can take a little break.
Nope. No breaks. No days off.
Oh,
all right, let's bring them. Bring them.
Okay. First car.
Ford Escort.
That's pretty good. Sean Casey told me that he had a Toyota Tercel or something, and he drove it even when he played for the Reds. And he said they would not let him park in players' parking because they didn't think he was really a player.
That's right.
Favorite teammate?
Oof. I've had a lot of good ones. I'm gonna go with Bryce Flory.
Ooh.
Yeah. He's in my wedding. Who do you think? Tony Gwynn?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I'll tell you the funniest roommate that I had was Ricky Henderson.
Really?
Oh, he was a nut job, man. He was awesome.
Oh my God. And he was very fast.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
As a matter of fact, the video of me stealing a beer there's a little story behind that. I guess I'm up past my bedtime, so I might as well give you the whole deal.
Okay.
So the night that I stole the beer, I was on the disabled list. I was not supposed to be in the bullpen. You're not allowed to be in the bullpen when you're on the disabled list. So I do my act. I've been doing it for years. I do my act. I'm on my way back, and if you watch the video again, you'll see me glance at the camera, and I saw the red light was on me, and I was like, "Oh no, I am not allowed to be in the bullpen. Like Major League Baseball is going to suspend me." So I told Trevor, I'm like, "Trevor, you got to go tell those people, that camera operator, don't air that." So it was being aired on local Channel 4 Padres, and so Trevor goes over there and said, "Whatever you do not air this on the broadcast." So the guy calls his director, and sure enough, they okay it. They're not going to air it on the broadcast. So this is the tie-in to Ricky Henderson. I go home that night. I turn on Baseball Tonight. This is before the MLB Network. I turn on Baseball Tonight. Da-na-na, da-na-na. It's a night of steals in San Diego. Ricky Henderson steals his 1,200th base. And Doug Bochtler steals a beer from a fan left field. And I was like, oh.
Did you get a fine out of that?
I didn't. Somehow, I don't know how, but I didn't. I didn't get fined. I didn't get suspended. But I had to go in and talk to Bruce Bochy and be like, "Hey, man, sorry, I was down in the bullpen last night. That was no fun."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a little scary. It made me a little nervous just listening to your story there. But did you have any superstitions? I know a lot of players had superstitions, not stepping on the chalk line and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
did you have any?
I did. I made it a point to not be superstitious. So when something crept in, I had to do the opposite. So I was superstitious about not being superstitious.
That makes sense. So I don't blame you there. And the last one, I am from Kentucky, the bluegrass state.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of bluegrass music?
Well, I live in the hills of East Tennessee.
Really?
That's right. Yeah, I live in Maryville, Tennessee, tucked up in the foothills of the Smokies. So, yeah, I know a little bit about bluegrass. Actually, quite a bit about bluegrass, actually.
Well, that's good. You can't be too bad of a guy then if you know
a
little bit about.
Yeah, I got. Look how red this neck is, and it's not just from spring training. That's not just from spring training either.
There you go. Matter of
I can
fact,
skin a buck
and run a trout line.
and run a trout line. That's right.
Matter of fact, I'm friends with Matt Ginter. Matt played for the White Sox, and
Yeah.
he actually plays a banjo.
Okay.
And we had the Diamond Dinner down here in Maysville. I have it every year in Maysville, Kentucky. And Matt was there. Al Oliver, Tom Browning. He passed away a month after we had it there. And Don Gullett. Some of those guys were there. And Matt had his banjo there, and he picked a little bit. So
Nice.
Matt knows a little bit about banjo. And I asked him. Well, he was asked. We asked questions like when the dinner goes on, and my uncle was doing the MCing, and I asked Matt, said, does anybody ever listen to bluegrass music in the clubhouse? And Matt said, no, but if they did, they probably wouldn't have kept them very long.
Yeah, you got that right.
But anyway, great interview. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry I kept you up past your bedtime. I know we were going back and forth trying to get a night lined up.
I know.
And we was both having issues here and there, and
got it knocked out. That's good.
But I appreciate it, Doug. Really appreciate it, and maybe I can get to Toledo and come up and watch you guys play a game.
That'd be great. Good catching up, Dave.
All right, thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
We'll see you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.